Hello and welcome once again to the video. In this one I shall be continuing my look at every Grand Prix in the 2025 Formula One World Championship. Just a simple look at what I thought of the race. What I normally do, and I will do the same again today, is I list down the finishing order, then the top 10 in the Drivers' Championship, then the rundown of the Constructors' Championship. After doing that, I then just say a few words on what I thought of the race, just from a fan's perspective. Nothing too technical. Anything I do say that's technical may well be inaccurate. Some of it will be, some of it won't be. But I just tend to give my opinions based on being a long-time fan since the early 80s, basically. So a long time. Right, so let's tuck in. This was, of course, round 9, Spanish Grand Prix at the Circuit de Catalunya, Barcelona. I think that's the circuit title. So, without further ado, let's write down the running order, finishing order. So, number 1 was Piastri. Now let's do something that I don't always do immediately, but I should, and that is check the focus. Is Mr. Focus okay? I hope so. Okay, second. Norris. Third, Leclerc. Shall I check that again? Yeah, okay, good. 4th place. Russell. 5th was Hulkenberg. And Hamilton. 7th was Hadjar, wasn't it? Yes. And Gasly. Alonso in the points. Verstappen. And then we had Lawson. Bortoleto. And then Tsunoda and Sainz. Colapinto. Yeah, it's in focus, isn't it? Ocon. Bearman. And Antonelli. Albon with Stroll not taking part, so just thinking how I can write that down. I'll just put Stroll down here. I can't think of what the 2 or 3 letters are that you're supposed to put down if they didn't compete. Maybe it's DC if it didn't complete. I can't remember. Anyway, so now let's do the rundown of the championship. Okay. Piastri. sort of well recovered. 136. I was thinking of Russell, who is on 1. Oh, dear, look at that. I got that wrong, of course. That isn't 136, it's 137. Oh dear, oh dear. Can I change that in some way? I'm just going to put a few little notes. I'm going to do that. There you go. That's very messy. I do apologise. Right, so 5th is Leclerc, 94. Then we got Hamilton. 71. Now let's try the focus again. Let's just, I always like to double check just to make sure. There we go. Okay. 7th is Antonelli on 48. Followed by Albon on 42. Hadjar 21. And Ocon 20. Okay, so next up I'm going to do the rundown of the Constructors' Championship. Okay, so we have McLaren out front by a long way. Now what I should say is I'm doing this video, I'm recording this video Sunday evening. So if we find out that tomorrow, on Monday, Charles Leclerc has been given a penalty or something for his ding-a-ling-a-ding-dong with Verstappen, then obviously these figures will be slightly inaccurate. And Ferrari might not actually be in second place in the Constructors' Championship. I can't believe they're second. 165. Mercedes 159. Red Bull 144. Williams 54. Racing Bulls 28. Haas 26. Sauber 16. Aston Martin 16. Alpine 11. Okay, so what did we think of that race? So that's still nicely in focus. Yes, it is. Okay, so firstly, fastest lap was Piastri, which I think he set after the safety car period. And let's just write down the number of wins. Piastri's 5th Grand Prix win. 2 for Norris, 2 for Verstappen. So that's 7 for McLaren, 2 for Red Bull. So, what did we think of that race? Well, this race was all about, the news from this race is all about 2 drivers, really. A couple of epic comings together. A couple of epic clashes by these two drivers. No quarter given by either. I am, of course, talking about Ollie Bearman and Liam Lawson. Everything else that happened in the race was secondary to the titanic duel between those two drivers that lasted all throughout the race. It was incredible. Amazing stuff. Every now and again, some other drivers would come across them on the track to lap them, like your Verstappens and your Russells and your Leclercs and your McLarens. But they would just get in the way of the spectacle, which was watching Bearman and Lawson push and shove and punch each other off the track. Fantastic stuff. And in the end, obviously Bearman had some kind of penalty. I'm not sure what it was in the end for overtaking off track. And so Lawson had the beating of him, but Lawson only came 11th. There was actually a third driver involved in all of those shenanigans, and that was Alonso, who always seemed to be there, diving in amongst them. As one of them went off the track, Alonso would take the opportunity to take that position. He was always there hanging around in the background, waiting to pick up the pieces. And he managed to come home in 9th place and score a couple of points. There were some other clashes, though, that took place in the race. Most notably between, of course, Russell and... Well, not of course Russell. Between Russell and, of course, Verstappen. Anyway, I'll get to that in a moment. Piastri dominated the weekend, I would say, but on race pace, he was pretty much level with Norris. I think he had Norris under control. Norris lost a chunk of time at the beginning, of course, being stuck behind Max. But there's no, I think, basically, even if Max hadn't got past Norris at the beginning, I think they would have just trailed home first and second. Norris he wouldn't have been able to get past, because the pace of the two drivers is very similar this year. And of course, the pace of the two cars is identical, or should be anyway. So I think Norris, for a while he would have tried to get past Piastri, and then he would have just dropped back, and it would have stayed like that for the rest of the race. Norris was overtaken at the start because, of course, as always, he's super slow at the start. I've always said it. I could go 0 to 60 quicker than him, on foot as well. He's terrible at the start of races and at the start of stints when he's just come out of the pits. But then he is super blisteringly fast later in a stint. He just needs time to warm up. Norris, I've always said it. And it's painful to watch because at the start he gets left behind, and then he has to fight his way through, and he does really well to fight his way through, but he just fights his way through to second. Meanwhile, Piastri, who always has a really good start, and did last year as well, just serenely controls things from the front in clean air. And it's a real problem with this year's championship. I mean, we thought maybe in this race we were going to see the two McLaren drivers neck and neck for the first time properly this year. Whenever they were neck and neck last year, Norris always came out on top, apart from the Italian Grand Prix, when at the start Piastri punched past Norris. But we haven't seen it yet this year, I don't believe. So that's what we're hoping for. But the problem is that the dirty air from the cars is terrible. And it was a real problem here. But I think Piastri would have had Norris covered anyway. Very similar pace in the same car. I don't think Norris would have got past. So, and Piastri deserved to be where he was at the front because his qualifying was awesome. He had more than 2/10 over Norris in quali. It was pretty much down to just one little mistake by Norris on his qualifying lap, where he had a little snap of oversteer going into one of the corners towards the end of the lap. That was what created the 2/10. But we've been saying that all year, that Norris just has the odd little mistake, tiny little mistake, and it sets him back for the whole weekend. Piastri is not making those tiny little mistakes. Yes, he was off the pace in Monaco. Norris had the beating of Piastri the whole race in Monaco. But there still weren't any mistakes. From obviously Piastri would say, oh yes, I made a mistake here, I made a mistake there, but I'm talking about mistakes that we can properly recognise and jump on, like we do with Norris's. I still think Norris is going to win the championship though, because I think there are going to be plenty of races where he gets to the front of the field in qualifying on pole position, and then if he gets to the first corner first, that's it. Bye Norris, he's gone. No one's gonna catch him up and get past him, especially once a few laps have gone by, because yes, Norris is always slow at the start, but so long as no one gets past him in the first few laps, he'll be gone. So, and the championship is still very close. There's only 10 points in it. That's nothing. So it's virtually like they're level pegging. But when you look at the number of wins, you realise that really Piastri has certainly been dominating with the results. Not dominating on the track, because as I say, Piastri and Norris, in my view, have been pretty much level on race pace and quali pace. The only difference being is that Piastri doesn't make mistakes. Norris makes the odd mistake. Strangely, he didn't at all in Monaco though, which was the sort of track where you would make mistakes. But just looking at how the results have gone, for his psychology, Piastri is going to be supremely confident. 5 wins out of 9. He's obviously the favourite, but I still think Norris is going to win. I really do. Leclerc, yet another podium, getting past Hamilton. Yes, Hamilton out-qualified Leclerc, but Leclerc had held back some new tyres. I think he'd held back a new set of mediums, and also he had just a scrubbed set of softs. He had fresher tyres than everybody else basically available to him, and that's what helped him get his 3rd place, and it also hampered him in qualifying. He sacrificed qualifying for the race. So yes, Hamilton out-qualified him, but probably only because Leclerc hampered himself with his choice on the tyres, and it worked out for him as he got 3rd place. So poor old Hamilton can't take anything. He can't take any joy even from out-qualifying Leclerc, I don't think. Hulkenberg, 5th place, unbelievable. Qualified 16th, came through to 5th. That's amazing. And still no podium since he started in Formula 1 in 2010. 2010. I saw him. 2009. He was in GP2, as it called back then. 2009, because I remember watching him. I went to the Valencia Grand Prix, the European Grand Prix in Valencia in 2009. It's actually the last Grand Prix I went to. I haven't been to one since. He was taking part in the GP2 race. I think he won it as well. The main one, the feature one. But yeah, fantastic performance by Hulkenberg. 5th place to match his 6th place in Australia, was it? Really good performance, and he overtook Hamilton. I've not seen any explanation as to why Hamilton was so slow in that final stint. He was slow all weekend, but apart from first practice, but he was particularly slow in that final stint after the safety car. Terrible. Hadjar, yet again, another fantastic performance by Hadjar. Managed to get ahead of Gasly. He started behind Gasly, but he got ahead of Gasly. Alonso, we mentioned. Verstappen. Verstappen and Russell. Hey, Verstappen and Russell. That was the next most exciting ding-dong after Bearman and Lawson. Basically, who was at fault, do we think? It's been analysed closely, the 2 knocks with Russell. The first one, you could argue that Russell was to blame because he did move into Verstappen, but that's because he was caught out in the dirty air of Leclerc right in front of him, and he lost grip going around the corner, understeered into Verstappen. So nothing intentional. But what was wrong, of course, was that the Red Bull team told Verstappen to give the place back. That's really unusual, because normally Red Bull are like Verstappen and they will fight to the death in Verstappen's corner, saying, yep, I know what you mean, Max. I know everybody else is terrible and everybody else is wrong and you're right, Max. Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. That's what GP, his Gian Piero, or whatever his name is, his race engineer. Oh, you're so right, Max, as always. Totally right. Yes, I am a plonker, Max, for putting you on those tyres. I'm sorry, Max, you're so right. But this time, and it did seem to be GP's decision, because he actually says, that's my advice. He said, give the place back to George. Yes, that order could have come from anywhere. But when Max obviously queried it, he said, GP said, that's my opinion. And it's the rules as well. It's strange wording from GP. It was a strange thing to do. And Max wasn't at fault anyway for that first ding-dong. I mean, nor was Russell. It was just a bit of a racing incident. But so because it's a racing incident, it should go back to what it was before, with Max in front and Russell behind. So yes, he shouldn't have been told to hand the place back. So a big mistake by the team, maybe by GP, because him telling Max to do that basically ended up with Max being 10th place after a penalty, because Max seems to have gone bananas and decided, right, if it's my fault because I was driven into by Russell, therefore I'm going to show how it can be Russell's fault if I drive into him. And he hasn't admitted that he did the second incident between them deliberately. He hasn't admitted that, but he hasn't said he didn't either. When queried about it after the race, he simply said, does it matter? Well, yes, of course it does, Max. Oh, yeah, dear. He said, does it matter? Does it matter whether I did the move deliberately? Yes, it does. It does matter, Max. Dearie me. Anyway, it's Max being Max, isn't it? These things constantly happen with Max Verstappen. Fantastic driver, but there is this problem with him, isn't there? And of course it cost him a load of points. 10th place after his, lucky to get away with a 10-second penalty, really. Maybe he only got a 10-second penalty because the stewards sympathised with the fact that his team shouldn't have told him to give the place back. No, I don't think they would have done, would they? No, I don't know why he only got a 10-second penalty, but he did. So 1 point. And of course Leclerc, after the race, pretty much admitted that he did drift into Max. Not necessarily, well, yeah, actually intentionally, because he said he was trying to get away from the dodgy part of the circuit that he was on, dodgy part of the track that he was on. And so he wanted to drift in slightly, and he made contact with Max. This is just before the first Russell ding-dong. So those two knocks, one was predominantly Leclerc's fault, and the other one was a racing incident caused by Leclerc's dirty air hitting Russell and pushing him into Max. Max was innocent for both of those knocks, but then went and did something that has been taken as being blatantly intentional. And which is a lot worse, of course, if you do something intentional. If he did do something intentional. Anyway, so what else? I thought it was incredible how, not incredible because it's been done loads of times before, but still impressive under a lot of pressure to double stack the McLarens. When the safety car came out, they double stacked the McLarens. Piastri came in, and a split second later, Norris was in. And of course, they had to swap the tyres over. They must have lost a couple of seconds, I assume, doing that. It didn't look like they lost any time, but they must have, grabbing Norris's tyres. But it didn't matter because the full safety car was still out, so the field was going to draw together. The important thing was to get the track position, maintain their track position, which they did, which was very good. The safety car came out, of course, because of Antonelli's engine just suddenly switching off. By the sounds of it, it just stopped. Is that the second race running, or is that the third race running? Second race running, I think, that his engine or his power unit has conked out. So that's a bit of a concern. Hamilton and Leclerc. Not only did Hamilton have to finish behind, have to cope with being overtaken by Hulkenberg and his teammate being on the podium, but he also had to do a swap with Leclerc as well. Leclerc was super fast in the first stint. However, that was, in Hamilton's defence, that was mostly down to the much fresher, scrubbed, soft tyres that Leclerc was on, fresher than Hamilton's. I don't know how many laps Hamilton's had done, probably only a few, but Leclerc's were fresher, making him faster, because as I said, he had sacrificed qualifying in order to make his race better. So Hamilton had the terrible situation of having to move over and let Leclerc go past. Hopefully Hamilton is aware that it was probably down to the tyres, not just Leclerc being quicker, because we don't want Hamilton to get too depressed about his performance, any more so than he already is, because he's so down in the dumps, Hamilton. That was Piastri's 8th podium on the trot for McLaren, and as I'm sure you've heard on whatever broadcast you listen to, that there are 2 other drivers have done it in a McLaren as well, 8 podiums on the trot. And they are Ayrton Senna in 1988, when in those 8 podiums he had 6 wins and 2 seconds in 1988. And then Hamilton, who actually did 9 on the trot, including 2 wins. But the incredible thing about those 9 were that they were his first 9 races in Formula One. In 2007, his first 9 races. God, that was so exciting that year when Hamilton started. I couldn't believe it. 9 podiums on the trot he had. 9. I was at his 9th, the 2007 British Grand Prix, when he came 3rd. I was at that race. His pole position at that race, the cheering. I've got a little video clip of him crossing the line, videoing him crossing the line in pole position, and the crowd going absolutely bananas, screaming and shouting. And I always show that to people to show what the atmosphere is like at the Grand Prix, the British Grand Prix in particular, where a British driver does well. So yeah, that was Hamilton's 9th podium on the trot for McLaren. Piastri's on 8. Can he go 9 in Canada? Norris would be on 9 this year had he not come 4th in Saudi Arabia. Had he not had that little accident, made that little mistake in qualifying in Saudi Arabia, he would be on 9 on the podium right now on the trot. Actually, more than 9, because he won the last race of last year, didn't he? So he would be on at least 10. Maybe more. I can't remember where he was in the penultimate race last year. But he would be, today would have been, or yesterday, because if you're listening to this tomorrow, or whenever you're listening to it. Yeah, Norris would have 10 on the trot now, had he not made a mistake in qualifying in Saudi Arabia. Tsunoda made it all the way up to 13th from 20th. What is going on now? I think he said something about he couldn't get a clear lap. So you never hear Max Verstappen saying that, do you? or any other top driver. They don't say, oh, I couldn't get a clear lap. Albon had all sorts of problems, and I don't think Albon retired. I don't think he had a problem with the car, apart from the fact that he had, I think, run out of front wings. And he was so far down that they just retired him. But I don't know if that rule still exists, where you're not allowed to retire a car unless there is a valid reason to retire it. If you're just annoyed because your car is way down the field, then it used to be that you were not allowed to retire it. Maybe they've taken that rule away now. Yeah, Sainz, he had a shocker, obviously. Bortoleto had a good race, but just finished just outside the points. But he had a good race, because the Saubers have had an update, or some updates, and Hulkenberg was putting his performance down to the updates. He's such a nice chap. He didn't say it's all down to him. Max would say the car's an absolute pile of tripe, but I'm still able to win in it, even though it's a load of rubbish. Hulkenberg says, yeah, I got fifth, but it's down to the car. It's not. It's down to Hulkenberg as well. Ocon, yes. Yeah, Bearman and, as I say, Bearman and Lawson, that was fantastically entertaining. It's a shame that we didn't have the camera following them the whole race. That would have been great. Was it? Lawson was particularly aggressive trying to get past Bearman. He was very optimistic in the first overtaking manoeuvre, pushed Bearman off the track. And then the second time as well, Bearman had to go off the track, and they were weaving about all over the place. Lawson is very aggressive, which is why I thought he would do well in the Red Bull. But I think they should have left him in the Red Bull. It's no good. It's like jumping queues at the post office. You can't just constantly keep changing your drivers all the time. I mean, Tsunoda is worse than Lawson was, basically. Tsunoda's in a right state these days, and he's been told he's in there till the end of the year. But I wouldn't be surprised if they change their mind by Canada and stick Hadjar in the Red Bull, which will probably destroy Hadjar, because he's doing exceptionally well, but he's in the lesser team. He's in the minor team. There's less pressure. There's still pressure, but less pressure. And yes, he is beating Lawson, but I wouldn't put Lawson back in the Red Bull. I don't think there's any point putting him back in there now. Now they just have to stick with what they've got. They just have to stick with Tsunoda, but they shouldn't have taken Lawson out. And I said that at the time. And I said before they took him out, I said they'll never swap Lawson. They'll never take him out. He'll be there till the end of the year. And then 2 races in, they get rid of him. They should have just given Lawson some time. I mean, Lawson is being beaten every race by Hadjar at the moment. But still, I think they should have left Lawson. Just stick with that. You've made your decision, stick with it. Let him grow in the team. Because any driver that goes into the second Red Bull seat at the moment thinks they've got, 2 or 3 weekends at most to impress before they get booted out. How on earth are Ferrari in second place in the championship? It's amazing. I mean, Red Bull have only got 1 driver. But second place for Ferrari when they're supposedly in all sorts of problems, going through all sorts of problems. But of course, Leclerc has managed to improve, and he's had 2 podiums on the trot now, 3 in total. Poor old Hamilton. This is the 4th year running that he's been nailed to 6th place in the Drivers' Championship. I don't think that's going to change. Right, that's the end of my chat. So, sorry for the little bit of mess there. It is a bit messy, isn't it? No Grand Prix next week, of course. So obviously there will be a video released next week on the Saturday. Might be a Formula 1. Might not be a Formula 1. But until then, thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. If you'd like to subscribe, please do so. Or like the video or comment on the video. even leave a tip on the thanks button below the video. But the main thing is, thank you very much for watching the video. And I will see you on the very next video, whatever it may be about. Goodbye for now.